Now at 6, a whirlwind weekend of legal and political turmoil in Portland.
There is no insurrection in Portland, no threat to national security. The only threat we face is to our democracy, and that threat is being led by President Trump.
What comes next after a judge blocked the Trump administration from deploying troops twice? Plus,
when people show up with an intention to, spice things up, it definitely happens.
While most protests near the ICE building remain largely peaceful, some new clashes are now raising concerns about the role of outsiders.
Also, Portland challenges a new DOJ investigation, accusing federal agents of using excessive force and targeting peaceful protesters. And later,
as soon as you hit buy, a robot grabs the right pot to get it to the associate right away.
Millions of square feet and 30 miles of conveyors as we take you inside the largest fulfillment center in the Northwest. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Molko.
And I'm Christine Pitawanich. Our top story here at 6, the ongoing legal battle over a potential National Guard deployment to Portland.
Right now, all eyes are on the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals after a federal judge here blocked the Trump administration from deploying the Oregon National Guard. Then, in an extraordinary move, called an emergency hearing Sunday evening and broadened that ruling. That's after the Trump administration tried to send in troops from California, then Texas, in what appeared to be an attempt to get around her order.
We have full team coverage over where the court cases stand now. Let's start with Kyle Laboshi live outside the ICE facility at the center of all this. Kyle, what do conditions look like out there now?
As you can probably hear, it's a spirited crowd out here. There's music, there are bullhorns, a number of cars driving by honking their horns. A fairly decent-sized crowd of peaceful demonstrators along with some counter-protesters as well. But now that legal fight heads to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which could make a decision at any moment.
After a whirlwind weekend, including the arrival of out-of-town National Guard troops in Oregon and a judge's order blocking their deployment, the Trump administration is pushing back.
We are appealing that decision.
On Monday, a White House spokesperson blasted Judge Karen Immergit's decision to temporarily stop the use of federalized forces to protect the ICE office in Portland.
With all due respect to that judge, I think her opinion is untethered.
On Saturday, Judge Immergit, a 2019 Trump appointee, said the administration had overstepped its authority and couldn't deploy Oregon's National Guard to Portland. Hours later, the Defense Department attempted to circumvent the judge's ruling by sending roughly 200 members of the California National Guard to Camp Withicum in Happy Valley. The Trump administration also looked to deploy members of the Texas National Guard to Oregon.
There is no insurrection in Portland, no threat to national security. The only threat we face is to our democracy, and that threat is being led by President Trump.
The feds argue that the troops are needed to help protect the Federal Immigration Office in South Portland. For several months, a small group of demonstrators gathered in front of the ICE office, leading to occasional clashes with federal agents protecting the building.
You look at what's happened with Portland over the years, it's a burning hellhole, and then you have a judge that lost her way.
In an emergency hearing Sunday night, Judge Immergit issued a stern ruling, broadening her restraining order to cover members of the National Guard of any state or the District of Columbia in the state of Oregon.
You could tell that Judge Immergit's questions seemed to be, they were quite pointed about, do you think this is an appropriate way for you to respond to a ruling you disagree with?
Lewis and Clark law professor Tong Yin explains the case now goes to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which will decide whether to put a hold on the judge's order blocking the deployment of the National Guard in Portland.
So now we shift our focus to the Ninth Circuit. Both sides have filed briefs and we wait for a decision. It's not clear if the court upholds that temporary restraining order, how the Trump administration will respond. Earlier today, President Trump said that he's open to the idea of invoking the Insurrection Act, which could lead to active military in U.S. cities.
I suppose that is the wild card in all of this. Kyle Laboshi on the South Waterfront this evening. Thank you, Kyle. Meanwhile, a conservative influencer arrested by Portland police last week outside the ICE building will no longer face a criminal charge of disorderly conduct.
The Multnomah County District Attorney's Office says it reviewed video of the incident and decided to drop the charge against Nick Sorter. Evan Watson joins us now live in downtown Portland with an update on the case, which, Evan, caught the attention of the White House.
It did catch their attention, that's for sure. The DA's office here in Multnomah County said Portland police did have probable cause to arrest Sorter, who was there supporting ICE, and 2 protesters protesting against ICE after what was described as a scrum. Prosecutors and the prosecutor's office said PPB's arrests diffused and de-escalated the situation, but upon reviewing video of the incident, they decided there wasn't enough to pursue charges against Sorter. The ICE facility at Portland's South Waterfront has drawn the attention of protesters for months. On Monday, dozens of people held signs in peaceful protest. But in the last week, following President Trump's criticism and call for the National Guard, groups of conservative influencers and counter-protesters have joined the mix.
I was jumped in the street and I got arrested for it. That's pretty much the gist of what happened.
Nick Sorter came to Portland from Washington, D.C. On Thursday, Portland police arrested Sorter and 2 protesters for fighting near the ICE building. 4 days later, prosecutors have now dropped Sorter's disorderly conduct charge, which Sorter claimed was politically motivated.
I think that was a good decision on their part. This would have been a very dumb case to proceed with.
The 2 other protesters arrested in the scrum are still facing charges. While most of the Portland ICE protests have been peaceful,
if there's bad things happening, we stand up for what we feel to be right.
Some people say the recent arrival of counter-protesters and right-wing influencers only serves to agitate, increasing the chance of conflict.
All I can say is I've had good discussions at demonstrations, but definitely when people show up with an intention to, spice things up, it definitely happens.
KGW asked Sorter if he and others are escalating the situation.
Is my presence violent? Because I'm filming, is that violent? What actually is the argument to say that I am agitating?
Sorter embraced Tommy Allen outside the ICE building on Monday. Portland police have arrested Allen twice in a week for disorderly conduct and assault, and ICE detained him on a different day.
They call it hate speech, but it's not hate speech, it's speech they hate. So I feel like we need to be out here counter-protesting these terrorists.
Allen said he's not an agitator, calling the protesters agitators.
I'm not going to stop coming back out here. I'm going to come out here every day until either the National Guard comes out here, the feds come out here, or these people get sick of seeing our faces out here.
Some of those ICE protesters are using humor to try and paint a different story.
Kind of to showcase the absurdity of what ICE is doing, be in stark contrast to, the violent rhetoric that's going around. We're not violent, and what better way to show that we're not violent than to be in a freaking frog costume.
Now, Portland Police Chief Bob Day said the arrest of Nick Sorter was anything but political, that his officers work by looking for probable cause and following the law. Here's what he told us today.
The reality is that we're not paying attention to the left or right conversation. We're paying attention to behaviors, and we're paying attention to what the law allows. All of our arrests are based on probable cause. All of those arrests are evaluated by the district attorney's office. Charges may or may not be issued. We've seen this over the years, and this is not unusual. This is how the criminal justice system works.
Portland police officers continue to watch over the area in South Waterfront near the ICE building. I saw one police officer quickly calm down a shouting match earlier today. Back to you.
Evan, appreciate you pointing out the protesters down there are not a monolith. You have a lot of different people, a lot of different perspectives. Evan Watson, downtown. Developing this evening, the city of Portland is pushing back after the Justice Department announced it was opening up an investigation into Nick Sorter's arrest.
Today, Portland's city attorney sent a letter to the DOJ claiming the federal government is using excessive force against peaceful protesters. The attorney says federal agents are shoving peaceful veterans and elderly people to the ground. They're also concerned about the use of pepper spray and impact munitions, things like rubber bullets, on an otherwise peaceful crowd.
We have, broadly speaking, observed what appears to be some cases where federal authorities have appeared to use force that is disproportionate with the actions of largely peaceful protesters. The letter also alleges the federal government specifically targets demonstrators based on their political beliefs and what they say, and favors people who agree with the administration. Okay, team coverage continues now with Stephanie Domerat in the newsroom.
She spoke with Oregon's Attorney General today about the fight between the state and the Trump administration. Stephanie.
Yeah, Attorney General Dan Rayfield says he and his office have been preparing for something like this since President Trump's inauguration day. Now, in my interview with the Attorney General today, he says he was pleased to see a second ruling yesterday to block the deployment of National Guard troops in Portland. And though this move was a temporary block, it is part of a bigger push from the Trump administration to normalize the use of military for public safety, something he says is illegal and even mind-boggling.
There's a reason that we don't accept having the military on our streets. It's un-American. It's not what the framers of our Constitution intended. That's something you'd expect to see in a third world country, and we'll fight to maintain that sense of normalcy because it just is not normal to do that.
Tonight on Straight Talk, we take a deep dive into the latest on the Trump administration's push to mobilize National Guard troops in Oregon. We'll have more with the Attorney General on when we could expect troops on the ground if the administration successfully appeals the ruling. Plus, a one-on-one with Portland Police Chief Bob Day, who tells me how his department is using what they learned in 2020 during civil unrest now at the ICE facility, and how his officers are handling the national spotlight and rising pressure. You can watch the latest episode of Straight Talk tonight at 7 right here on KGW or anytime on our free TV app, KGW+. Back to you guys.
Yeah, really important context. Appreciate it, Stephanie. Stay with KGW for continuing coverage as the legal cases and protests continue to play out. We'll keep you updated on air on KGW.com and on our free TV app, that is KGW+.
In other headlines this evening, a Vancouver teenager was arrested over the weekend, accused of strangling a woman to death. 17-year-old Karma Douglas is charged with second-degree murder. We're naming her because of the severity of the crime and because she's being charged as an adult. Court documents say Douglas and another woman identified as Chantel Trotter got into a fight inside Trotter's home early Sunday morning. Witnesses say Douglas pushed Trotter up against a wall and choked her. We spoke with the victim's son about his mom.
She was a hard worker, a hard-headed person who put her best foot forward in every situation, always had a smile on her face, making sure that everybody around her was taken care of and happy.
Douglas is scheduled to be back in court on Friday.
I always knew it for me personally.
Former Oregon State Senator Daniel Bonham of the Dalles has now been nominated as an Assistant Secretary of Labor. Bonham was the Senate Republican leader in Oregon, but announced his resignation last month, which took effect yesterday. If confirmed to the position, Bonham will serve under Labor Secretary and former Oregon Congresswoman Lori Chavez DeRemer.
Oregon Governor Tina Kotek has signed an executive order to speed up renewable wind and solar projects across the state. The governor says the goal is to take advantage of federal clean energy tax credits before they expire. To qualify for those credits, construction on projects must start by next July. The governor says her executive order instructs state agencies to prioritize and accelerate the permitting and development process to get these projects started faster. Celine?
Christine, we had a really nice day today. That's going to continue into tomorrow. So good news, at least for now. Taking a look right now at our sky camera on the Wells Fargo Tower. Really nice. Like I said, 75 degrees is where we're at. It's a little bit breezy out there. Those winds coming out of the east at 15 miles per hour at the moment. Those breezy conditions, by the way, continue into Tuesday. Looking at our temperatures right now across the map, 75 in Vancouver, 75 in Hillsborough. We've been in the mid to upper 70s really all day long. Along the coast, looks like more 70s, 75 in Tillamook, 76 in places like Salem. Corvallis hit 80 degrees earlier on today, so it's been a warm period here now in fall, but again, things do change quickly. But still, we have been noticing temperatures warming up in the past couple of days. We got up to 5 degrees warmer right now than this time yesterday, 7 degrees warmer in Hillsborough. Same story along the coast, but we are going to be seeing moisture coming in pretty soon. By Thursday, we're going to see rain, and that's going to lead us on a stretch of rain. We'll talk more about just how much coming up.
Gotta soak up that sunshine while it lasts. Thanks, Celine.